Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Travel Coach Network podcast. It is I, Sahar Rosevor, the founder and CEO of the Travel Coach Network and the creator and instructor of the Travel Coach Certification Program. We have our third panel of our TCN members, and this one is all about wellness. So I'm going to do a brief intro of who our three guests are, and then we're going to dive right into it, all right? So first we have Shelley Nyquist. Shelley is an American expat living in Finland. By day, she weaves narratives as the head of editorial at VKU Wellness Travel, intertwining her love of travel and wellness. By night and weekend, she wears many hats as a certified life and travel coach, yoga and meditation enthusiast, and self-proclaimed coffee addict with a soft spot for sangria. After recently, Shelley added author to her repertoire with Get Your Calm Om, a not-so-serious playbook for the Zen curious. She also co-hosts Wine by Wanderlust retreats, designed for those who crave slow travel, bold pours, and soulful exploration. With a deep passion for helping people succeed, Shelley has spent the past 5 years empowering midlifers to dream more, achieve more, and become more. Her Bloom Where You Are Planted workshop provides a space for curious minds to reflect, reset, and plant the seeds for meaningful change. Then we also have Angela Gallo. Angela is a movement expert, a wellness advocate, and a travel coach who empowers women aged 30 to 60 to reconnect with their bodies, minds, and spirits through travel and movement. As the artistic director of Sapphire Moon Dance Company and dean and professor of dance emeritus, she has spent over 20 years teaching dance, somatics, Pilates, anatomy, and injury prevention in higher education. A national Pilates certified teacher and certified travel coach, Angela has trained and certified instructors while also leading study abroad trips for over 15 years and personally traveling to over 26 countries herself. She's a member of the Pilates Method Alliance and is passionate about integrating movement and travel for holistic well-being. Her expertise has been featured in Bold Journey Magazine, Wellness Magazine, South Carolina Voyager, and Women We Admire, where she was named one of South Carolina's top 50 women leaders for 2024. She has also shared her insights on podcasts such as The Imperfect Art of Adulting, Teacher Talk, and Pilates with Intention. And last but not least, we have Tracy Hook. Tracy is a board certified health and wellness coach, certified life coach, and a certified travel coach who helps women overcome limiting beliefs and reconnect with their joy, confidence, and purpose. Blending coaching psychology, neuroscience, and ancient wisdom, she guides women towards lasting transformation, helping those who are feeling stuck, burnt out, or ready for more to break through barriers and create a life that they love. Well, Tracy, Angela, and Shelley, thank you all so much for being guests on our TCN panel podcast today. I'm so excited to chat with you guys. Wonderful. So let's get started here. So, Tracy, can you tell us, where did your passion for travel and, of course, I guess wellness too, right? Where did that all begin?
Well, I would have to say that for me, it truly began when I completely burnt out. So, I spent 30 years in the corporate world, and then after that, I hit a roadblock, and I hit the wall. I completely burnt out, and I treated myself to a wellness retreat for the first time in my life, and that was over the age of 50. And that just turned into a completely life-changing experience. It turned me on to first solo travel. It turned me on to wellness travel. And it just completely changed my world. And it ultimately led to me leaving the corporate world to become a certified coach and to help other people. So wellness travel is now just at the core of who I am and what I'm about and what I love to help people with and help them transition through anything that they're going through.
Wonderful. And Shelley, what about you? Where did your kind of intersection of travel and wellness and this passion for what you're doing stem from?
Well, the travel book actually hit me in the mid 80s when I was Eurailing around Europe. And those 3 months brought out like my curious side. I was exposed to people, culture, conversations, and I wanted more of this. And it started to manifest into traveling every chance I could get. I also secretly wanted to live in Europe. And I've been actually living that dream for almost 32 years. And so I was also one of Finnair's editors for their in-flight magazine. So obviously that gig tapped into my travel side as well. Um, and then when it comes to wellness, I'll be honest, it actually fell into my lap. I've always been like into like my own version of wellness, like vegan, biking, tennis, yoga, spying. But the pivotal moment was when I took a sabbatical, or I call it a soul-batical, in 2020 from work, and it just so happened to coincide with COVID. So obviously I couldn't travel. So all I did was like wonder. And I took the Yale's Science and Wellbeing course, and I really loved the link between wellness, the wellness factors, and happiness. And so I unfortunately Finnair just kind of grounded their publication, and then I decided, you know what, I'm going to kind of like go out on my own. And then when I had the aha moment, and then transitioned to working for VacaYou, where my passion for travel and my newfound passion for wellness kind of intersected. Um, yeah, so that's kind of how they both intertwine.
Yeah, I love that you said a soul batical.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've necessarily heard that. And I think like was the connection of VacaYou through the TCN? I don't
It
remember. I
actually
think
was. You had shared, I think, um, maybe I don't know, you maybe have sent out an email, and then I connected with one of the marketing people, and then the whole thing just snowballed because I was like, hey, this is like my life.
yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know. I feel like it's been so long ago. Shelly was actually one of her very early people, one of our founding members of our program. And so I feel like Shelly and I go way back. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I think that's what happens.
Yeah, I think that
Um,
is what happened. I'm like one of the OGs, and I have to say it actually, it did change my life. So
oh, I love hearing that. And then Angela, tell us where did more about yourself and your background that got you into wellness and travel and what it is that you are doing now.
I have been working in higher ed, kind of was straddling two worlds. I was in the professional dance world as a dancer and choreographer, and also working in higher ed as a dance faculty at a private university. And so I had the opportunity. Well, actually, I think one of the first international trips I took was my honeymoon with my husband, where we had it wasn't really a yoga retreat, but where we were staying, we had a private yoga instructor come and work with us each day during our honeymoon, which was really nice. And so that was one of our first kind of wellness retreats, sort of, that we took together. But in my role in dance, I had the opportunity to travel internationally for some performance opportunities. I had the opportunity to perform at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival in Scotland, which is one of the largest performing arts festivals that takes place in the world. It's really such a exciting time. There's performances happening all day and even all night, going until like 12 or 1 in the morning. So having that opportunity, also right before the pandemic, I had the opportunity to travel to Germany as an artist in residence at this place called Lake Studios, where I had had a pretty traumatic injury. And as a dancer, it was really affected my mental health. I had torn my ACL, and I couldn't dance for over 6 months. And that was the first time I'd had something that serious happen in my life. And so when I went to go to Germany, I had the opportunity to spend a month there working on creating a new performance piece that helped to deal with that. And it was very much, in some ways, dance therapy to help me work through that trauma. But also, as part of my higher ed role, I was leading study abroad trips with students, and taking these groups of students. We took probably about 10, 12 trips over 15 years that these students would spend a few weeks in a foreign country and just come back transformed, and working with them as a mentor to them, and just watching how much it shifted their life view, how they became much more global citizens. When I was offered early retirement about 9 months ago, I decided that, in my next phase, I wanted to work on providing that kind of transformative opportunity for others, not just students, but for others in their lives as well.
I hear by the three of you sharing your backgrounds and where your interest for wellness and travel comes from, it's very different and who you guys serve. So I read a little bit about what your passion is and when it comes to who you're serving as clients. And that varies as well because wellness means something different to every single person, right? So Tracy, can you share like what does wellness travel look and mean to you?
Well, wellness travel, I guess for me is really, it's about reconnecting, and it's a place that you can truly kind of feed or heal your soul. I think that, we often get lost in our lives and maybe on the hamster wheel of life and just kind of going through the motions. And wellness travel is just really an opportunity to kind of improve yourself, physically, mentally, emotionally, even spiritually. And it's about intention and living with intention. And I think that we lose sight of that a lot. And wellness travel is just a beautiful catalyst for reconnection and intentional living. So yeah, it's just a nice way to step away from, the everyday and really tune into what you need, as a human being, because we do absolutely disconnect with that. So I think wellness travel is just hugely important, a place to pause and reset and reconnect.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I was starting my own wellness travel coaching business in early 2018, and I dove into, researching as much as I could about the wellness industry, the travel industry, and then the combined wellness travel industry. And, the amount of information and research out there that exists on the various mental, emotional, spiritual, physical, physiological, even professional wellness benefits, social wellness benefits of travel as well. And it just blew my mind. And that's why I started as a wellness travel coach. And I'm like, why don't companies pay attention to this? Like, why is this not talked about in marketing? Like, why is this not talked about in the travel industry in general? And everything to me was so very kind of cookie cutter and surface level. But I was yet like we know that we as human beings turn to travel for such personal reasons, such healing reasons, and all this industry proof shows and supports that. How can we kind of fill that gap and really bring these benefits to life and use that to help people have experiences that reach whatever of those wellness goals? Because mental health wellness and physical well-being and emotional well-being, those are all very different avenues, and those also within each category mean something different to everyone. And so if we're already traveling for uh, reaching our goals and healing and aspirations, like why not be intentional with that and more mindful with that, using and tapping into this information. And I know Shelley, like as the working in the editorial side of a wellness magazine that is very popular and a wellness platform itself, you come across so many different angles of wellness and wellness travel. So what does wellness travel mean and look like to you?
Well, I mean, I have to say, you said it, Tracy said it, but wellness is personal and so is wellness travel. And it's not a one size fits all. And so, like, what I also do in my coaching is that, or whatever I do, is that the wellness travel, be it wellness or just travel, it should meet you where you are. And so that's, and that's, I think, where like a travel coach comes in, because that's your job, is to go deep and ask those questions. What do you want? What do you want to feel, et cetera? And so that the client, I kind of turned this around to coaching, not like my editorial job, but that's a different thing. Anyway, but the client gets what they're looking for, and that meets them where they are. And that effect should ideally last, longer, than just like when they land. And I guess for work, it's just, like hotels, spas, and resorts and retreats, and everybody's just offering, jumping on the latest trend and stuff. So I think one of the things that I try to do is that like offer a wide variety of content for the different types of travelers, and just kind of intersperse like wellness trends, travel trends, and like the hotel or spa or resort, they sell what they sell. There's nothing I can do about it, but kind of explain why this program or retreat is for this person or et cetera.
Yeah, like you said, wellness travel is not a one size fits all. And that's so true because even if we're looking for a certain type of healing experience, that experience is going to vary at every time we go on a trip, right? We're always evolving in our life. There's always something different that's happening. And wellness is going to look different and someone's desire of like a healing outcome is going to look different every single time we travel too. And that's something that just always frustrates me with the wellness travel industry is because the wellness travel tourism industry is a massive industry. I'm not pulling up stats because people love to do that, and be like, we're part of this, multi-trillion-dollar industry or whatever. We know that it's important. But for me, I never really understood the disconnect between travel and wellness. For me, wellness is travel and travel is wellness. Because if we're searching for flights, we're looking to get away, we're looking for an escape. Even just using those terms means we are seeking something to fulfill us, to change us within, whether that's to think differently, to feel better, to boost our happiness. All of this stuff falls under these categories of wellness as well. If we want to use buzzwords like wellness travel or transformative travel or meaningful travel or slow travel or responsible tourism, even in the going into the world sustainability and responsible tourism, to me, that also falls under these categories because that's an emotional connection you have to the planet, to people, immersing into local culture. That also goes under the category of wellness travel too, right? And so for me, it's more of like bringing together this whole concept and at the roots, understanding that travel is wellness and wellness is travel, that there shouldn't be a separation between are you a wellness traveler? And therefore, in the words of, or speaking in the terms of like travel advisors or travel coaches, not having to segment yourself and say, I serve wellness travelers. Well, what does that mean? Like, who is that, right? And so Angela, you have a very unique perspective when it comes to wellness and travel because of movement and dance and Pilates and somatics and then your perspective on travel. So for you, can you explain what wellness travel means to you and your ideal clients too?
Sure. So yeah, right now I'm leading some wellness retreats, and really the main goal of those retreats is, I'm working with people who, like me in my own career, were burnt out, like Tracy also said about hers, burnt out, tired of this corporate or, higher ed world where everything is go, 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 and you have these deadlines and no one cares about anything and your life starts to fall apart. And so bringing people back to finding the intention in their life, being intentional about the choices they make in terms of how they move their bodies. Are they moving their bodies? So many people don't ever move their bodies. They sit in front of a chair, in front of a computer for 8 to 10 hours a day. And this is so horrible. And so getting people even just to move, to walk, to experience nature, to be out, maybe on walking trails or a meditation labyrinth, or just starting to do somatic movement, which is, for those who don't know, it can be, the way I do it can be a lot of things. Basically, the somatic side means it's mind, body, focus. And so I will lead a lot of improvisational practices where people just to start guiding people to move their body just the way it feels like. Well, how do you need to move right now? What is your body telling you? And a lot of people don't even know what to do with that because they never take the time to listen to what their body is telling them. But finding that deeper practice is really fulfilling for a lot of people, and it can help them find that space to bring more balance back in their lives.
Yeah, I love that one of the things I tell you guys who are in the certification program is to really tap into what it is that you as an individual are passionate about, that you're interested in, that where do your skills lie? Because if you're going to create a wellness travel coaching business, not only do you have to figure out exactly who are you serving, but what's setting you apart versus someone else, right? And so not everyone is going to be interested in somatics. Not everyone's going to teach Pilates. Not everyone's going to find the importance of moving their body every day. And so I love that you guys have all created these individual pathways in your travel coaching that really align with what matters to you, right? I mean, that's exactly what I did as a wellness travel coach and me serving the business travel industry. You know, I found the value and understood the burnout epidemic that was happening among business travelers and really understood the industry and geared everything towards that. But that's going to look different for someone else who might have a different ideal client. Because I think that what I often see people saying in building their business in general is that they try to fit themselves in the boxes of what's already being done or what they see someone else doing or is a trend. And I'm like, pull back those layers and ask yourself, like, what is it that you actually want to do and that you care about when it comes to travel? So Shelly, what we know that there's so many different mental, emotional, physical wellness benefits of travel, but let's start diving into some of these to give our listeners who are travelers and then as travel business owners an idea of like, what does this actually mean and look like when we are actively traveling? So from a mental health wellness side of things, so what are some ways that travel can help boost our mental well-being?
So that is like such a good question, and I feel like I I kind of already answered that earlier, but I think I'm going to take it from the perspective of um, what are the common barriers that they face. And that's how, that's how I feel like I work with my clients. And so for me, it's basically they feel guilt-ridden about taking me time or they don't feel deserving. And so when I created my coaching concept, which I called Your Me-scape, which is like me plus escape, I just feel that that whole program addresses that guilt-ridden feeling about taking that me time. And so I was able to actually implement this in my own life, and I know what it does and how it benefits, other women. And and I actually love taking them, like working with these women, because when they are in that headspace, they feel guilty, they feel pulled. And I just love helping them take that trip because like to me, I think that's what I see as the biggest mental block. I don't necessarily work with people on a physical level, so it's more about the mindset. And so also the retreat that I'm hosting is also about that. So everything that I'm doing is trying to get into that headspace and the mindset, finding the me time, stepping out of your comfort zone, and then then because we'll be in France, having a little wine because it doesn't hurt. So I don't know if that answered your question, but
Yeah,
that's
I think it's really important to uh, understand the why when people are traveling. So,
Mhm.
what are those mental blocks that you do have, and what is motivating you to travel? Because I always reflect on when I started backpacking right out of university, and I've said this in other interviews, and I always like to give at first the pretty answer. I always like, well, I have time. I'm young. I heard about backpacking. I've always wanted to you know, see the world, see Europe. I heard about backpacking Europe when I was in high school, and so it's always kind of been on my list of something to do. But then over time, as I was really thinking about it, I realized that I wasn't really being honest with myself, and I wasn't really tapping into my truth when it came to my why for travel, or why I initially started traveling. And that truth, and that's why I'm such a big advocate for travel as a source of healing. And I know that, like, when you go into the mental health space, there's a difference between mental health and mental well-being. And the health space is a whole different kind of industry. So even if I say that here, I'm really just meaning mental well-being, because there's so much research out there on how travel can boost our mental well-being. But I know for me, like, I've always struggled with an anxiety disorder, and I was experiencing bouts of depression my last couple of years of university, where I just was burning myself out with school and working so many jobs and just not in a good headspace. And I couldn't see any, like, fun or happiness in my future. I was like, I'm not liking my routine. I'm not liking, I get up and go to work every day. I'm doing the same thing. I was working in the restaurant industry, which, if you guys worked in the restaurant industry, you kind of understand. It was in crazy, hectic, very busy, very popular places in Chicago, which I made great money for travel, but it can take a mental toll on you. And I just was like, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. I didn't know my career path. I didn't know who I was as a person now that I'm out of school. Like, we've been institutionalized our whole life, told what to do, where to go, what time, and whatnot. And now we're kind of free. And I'm like, what? Like, what do I want? Where do I go? And I was just unsure of things. And so I just was like, I need to get away. I had that fight. I'm a fight or flight type of person, and I'm a flight person. So I literally flew away. And I didn't know where I was going, but I knew that I needed to feel something different. I wanted to feel happy. I wanted to feel joy. And did I know that travel was going to do that to me at 22 years old? Absolutely not. I studied hospitality and tourism, but we didn't study the health benefits or wellness benefits of travel. And there was not all this talk about transformation and all this stuff back then. But I was falling in love. And I think that's when people say, like, I get bit by the travel bug. Like, travel, it grabs us, it does something to us. And I know for me, it was helping me find those answers and leading me to the clarity on being happier and feeling joy and being excited about life and feeling like my better self and being optimistic about what could be in the future. And I think all of that falls under the category of boosting our mental well-being when we travel, amongst all the other, type of information that exists out there. But Tracy, can you share any other, like, emotional, social, physical, even mental wellness benefits of travel that really stick out to you?
Yeah, well, something that you said actually was sticking out to me, how you were at that place in your life where you didn't really know what to do next. And so your flight, mode kicked in and you just got away. It's such an opportunity to simplify and to open up the space to release the mental clutter and allow that clarity to come in. I think that it's just such a powerful tool. Mentally, it's just to give us the clarity. It can change our mood, right? I mean, it gets rid of that mental fatigue, in a way. And it just really helps us be able to process and see what's really going on. So I just love that you had said that, because I totally, for me, it does the same thing. It just allows me to clear my head. I can, see things clearly and kind of know how to move forward. It also helps build, like, intuition and trust, self-trust, and decision making, all of those things. But to then hopefully and then on top of that, there's also the physical, right? It's just, there's so much more to the benefits of travel than just the mental. But I do think that the mental space is probably, in a way, the most important, because everything comes off of that. Shelley talked about mindset, and I think that there's so much about our mindset, that has to get to a certain place before we're able to transform, or we're able to make decisions, or we're able to even heal ourselves. And so I think that is kind of the core of it, is really working on that mindset. And then you're really able to work on the physical aspects, it's the social aspects, and just, those, to me, go sort of on top of, the mental. the mental wellness piece in a way, because there's so much opportunity, obviously, physically and, emotionally to grow, but that mental piece is just huge. I don't know if I answered your question.
No, yeah. And then Angela, what do you have to add on to what we're talking about when it comes to these various types of, especially mental well-being, but other forms of wellness benefits of travel?
Well, I think, especially in our culture in the United States, so many people get vacation time and they don't even take it. Kind of going back to what Shelley was saying about being guilty of taking this time for yourself. And I think we really need to move past that as a culture, because it is harming our well-being. It is harming our mental health. And, so taking that time for the travel, like Shelley, like we've all been saying, it just opens that space for you to experience other cultures, to experience, like I know for me on a lot of my trips, we were looking at the arts and cultures of other countries and just seeing that and being open to that, and just like letting these experiences wash over you, and to see new creativity that just sparks ideas and creativity and more passion. Like you were saying, you were feeling depressed. It's, in your younger years, just seeing some of the beauty of other cultures and their architecture that is so different from where we live, that, it just can really change our mindset. Seeing these wonderful, even just landscapes of, I'm thinking of a trip we took last summer where we were in Dubrovnik, and we saw just these mountains, and it was just so, mind blowing, just the awe of looking at these different landscapes, and just feeling like, wow, I am really this small thing in this big, huge world. And I think sometimes we forget that, and that can be really empowering.
Yeah, there's a research out there that talks about the power of like awe-stricken sites in nature, that I find super interesting because that's exactly it. I know part of like when I was backpacking and why I kept going, because I'm like, there's more places and more amazing things to see, and I want to go to them because what it was doing for me. And you mentioned the word passion in there, Angela. And when we talk about travel can help us find our purpose and find our passions in life, but like we have to explain to our ideal clients, like, what does that actually mean, right? In our marketing, what does that actually mean? And travel allows us to do that by breaking our daily routines. And something we also haven't really quite touched on is the power of blue and green spaces. I know for me, also I always gravitated towards bodies of water. This is something I mentioned in my TEDx talk, and I gravitated towards bodies of water. I thought it was just I'm Aquarius. Like I love water. I love, and it could not necessarily just the beach, even though I'm very much a beach bum, but it could be a beautiful lake. It could be a pond. It could be a park with a pond. It could be a waterfall. It could be anything with water. And I immediately feel better. And I even did that when I lived in Chicago. I lived near the lake. And turns out after doing all this research, there's so much healing in the world of blue spaces.
Yep.
And then there's green spaces. So like hiking and nature and gardening. There's actually even articles that came out during the pandemic that talked about how doctors in England were prescribing their patients with time in nature, blue and green spaces, when it comes to boosting who were dealing with anxiety and depression. And I found that super interesting because now there's like the intertwining of like wellness in travel and now health, right? And the medical industry. So there's just so much. There's also statistics that talk about the number of hotel rooms, the percentage of hotel rooms that have oceanside views or views of the water, how those are like, way up here versus all the other rooms. And there's a reason to that, right? So we mentioned social wellness benefits too. So the power of human connection. If we're going to talk about time in age or immersing into other cultures, like why? Like what does that do for us? And opening up our new perspectives. And I know that's something that travel is helping me do, with finding gratitude in what I have already in life, and then opening my mind to, what I don't have, and, understanding that seeing other people and how they live and their lifestyles, but yet they're happy and how we can live with very little and still be happy. Like travel does so much for us. And so that's just what I would love to do in the Travel Coach Network and just travel industry in general, is to bring out these actual ways that travel can benefit us that I don't feel like is often talked about in the marketing of the industry. Is there anything, Shelley, that you can share of how travel that stuck out to you during a trip that or changed you in some way?
Well, I mean, you've said so many things that, when I was like reflecting, like the blue mind theory and, and this and that. But I know for me, and this is like so funny, but it just hit me this year of all things. Like, why do I travel? And it's for community and connection. And I've been doing it for all these years. And then it just hit me because I'm not going to say I'm a creature of habit, but just due to circumstances, I've been always going to the same places. I go to the US to visit my family, and I go to Paris to, visit my daughter. Not bad. And it's because I'm living here in, the frozen tundra, and it's like, I got to get out. And so it's like, that's just my connection to everybody. So that's how I'm like feeding my soul, as an expat.
Yeah. And then Angela, for you, is there something that you remember during travel that really made an impact on you when it comes to like a wellness standpoint in any way?
I think going back just to look at how other cultures are living their lives, and
Mhm.
the time frame that, some of these, I just remember going to like Spain and Italy, and in the afternoon, we're shut down. Nothing is open. It's time for us to go home and be with family, and we'll open back up later this evening. And and I just, that pace, um, the importance of family, the importance of culture, I think is really important. And I think it had a profound impact on me too as I was traveling.
Mhm.
And what about you, Tracy?
I think I love what she said about culture and seeing ways that other people are living. I know that really impacted me. My first trip out of the country was actually to Amsterdam right after college, because a friend of mine finished her art degree in Amsterdam. So went to go see her. And the pace of life was completely different. And it was so refreshing. And it didn't feel so intense or high pressured. And that really stuck with me and really made me want to travel a lot more to see other cultures. A few years later, my brother actually moved to Warsaw. And then I got to see how people were living in Poland. And again, it's much slower pace. And it's just, there's definitely more time for self-care, for family, for connection. It's just a different way of life. And so I think that getting out and seeing how different cultures live and is just, that's been hugely impactful for me personally and just on my life. And I reflect back on that when in times that I'm stressed out or, there's so much going on. I think back and it's like, why are we living like this here in the United States? This is not how other cultures live. So it's pretty eye-opening.
Yeah, I like that you brought that up because being able to see see something and take it back home with us or experience or learn something and take it back home with us and apply it to our own routines, our own mindset, our own relationships, our own everything. And I feel like that's such a missing piece in the current travel planning and booking industry. And that's something that travel coaching we really talk about, is that if travel is something that we know can benefit us, and we throw words like transformative travel or transformational travel out there, and even wellness travel, why are we leaving so many opportunities on the table, or just cutting off an opportunity for someone to have an outcome, to have a change, to have a transformation, to really truly heal? Because these are all journeys. It's not like
Mhm.
someone can go on a trip and be transformed, right? Or someone can go on a trip and be magically healed, right? There's no spa in the world that can do that for you. and no trip in the world that can do that. It's these micro moments of these different experiences over time. It's a journey, and that's why we crave travel. We want to go back. We need more. It's like a dopamine hit that we get because it is doing something for us. And so, in the world of travel coaching, and what all three of you do here with in your messaging, in your work, and in who you serve, is, you know, helping take people on those journeys to make travel a key component to their wellness toolkit. And I think that's so important that we start flipping the script when it comes to travel, and changing the viewpoint. And instead of it being a vacation that we see and something that we earn once a year or can only afford to do once a year, and changing how travel's viewed as something that, even in these small doses, in our own communities, in our own backyard, in our next town, and on a road trip, not only having to go abroad all the time, that we can use travel as this piece to help us live our best, healthiest, happiest lives. And that's something I just don't often see or hear about in the travel industry, right? We hear like people, you know, once their booking's done, then they're on their own to figure things out, or they need a vacation from their vacation. But with true intention and true depth and understanding why for travel and understanding these benefits, I think any travel business owner out there can really help transform those lives of those clients in more meaningful ways than just using these buzzwords that we have, right? Does anyone want to expand upon that before we go on to the next?
Well,
The thing that,
oh, go ahead.
oh, I was just going to briefly just comment that it really is the feeling that you want when you're traveling. There's a, you know, you can ask somebody, well, what are you looking for? Or, you know, why do you want to travel? What do you want to get out of this? But how do you want to feel? I think is so much at the core of any kind of transformation, you know, especially through travel. How do you want to feel? What do you want to bring home with you? What feelings do you want to bring home with you and integrate into your life? So that came up for me while you were talking. It's like, oh God, that just, it's like, it's definitely that feeling that you're after.
And I was just going to say again, Sahara, you brought up so many, you know, great points, but so I've been living outside of the US for almost 32 years. And, you know, when I was, you know, I was so into the hustle culture. And even when I first moved here, I was just like, yeah, 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 yeah. And then now I feel that when I travel, or you know, I go to the States or I go wherever, I just have a totally different mindset. And because it is about the feeling. Like I've learned what I want and the feeling that I want to get. And I guess also it just comes with, you know, like coaching yourself or whatever. But you're like, you know, hey, I'm putting up these boundaries. I'm not going to like let anybody else tell me what I'm doing. I'm not going to, you know, be a copycat. So I think it just all, you know, comes into place. But yeah, I feel that just like living over here has really changed my mentality about like life and that what I want to, you know, bring with me when I travel.
Yeah. Angela, any last thoughts on this?
No, I was just thinking of what while Shelley was talking. It's you know, that going back to taking risk and, you know, building confidence in a lot of our clients, encouraging them to step out of that comfort zone in our own ways, how we work with them, so that they can feel more fulfilled. Again, going back to that feeling, how can they be more fulfilled in their lives? How can they not be afraid to, you know, some of them really are afraid of traveling. They hear things in the media and they're like, oh, I can't go there. It's, you know, and I mean, I'm my own parents. Even when we lived in New York City for a while, and my father was like, "Oh, don't go there. You can't go." I'm like, "Stop! You don't know what you're talking about." And you know, but you know, teaching our clients that the world is safe and the world is interesting, and it can be so profound to go and experience some of these other things, and what we can bring home, how that really can affect our lives when we come home is so wonderful.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'm going to shift it towards, since we're coming to the end here. Before I ask everyone how they can find and follow you, I'd love to ask if there's a fun fact about you guys. So Tracy, I'll start with you. Is there a fun fact about yourself that you can share with our audience that doesn't have to be business or travel related?
Okay, well, I don't know how much fun this is, but it's just sort of interesting. So, despite the fact that my parents were both raised, they're both were 100% Polish and raised in these very strict Catholic households. My first memories growing up were living in a cult community. My parents were sort of the black sheep of their family. They were constantly spiritually searching. And so some of my very first memories of life were living in a cult.
Oh, wow.
I feel like that's a whole
That's a
nother
whole other
episode to get
thing.
into.
Another
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, thanks for sharing that. Shelley, what about you?
So I have like zillions of fun facts, but the one that I'm going to bring up because it is that when I first moved here, I didn't speak the language. I couldn't do, what I was doing in the US. So I was walking around in freezing cold weather and I was like, okay, Finns drink the most coffee per capita in the world, but they don't have coffee to go. I started it. So I started the whole coffee to go scene as well as the Specialty Coffee Association of Finland. So in 1993 was the first time that Finland had coffee to go.
Why is that not in your
Fun fact.
bio? That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And I still see people from like those days, they're like, oh, there's the coffee lady.
That's great.
Shelley, you never cease to amaze me. Angela, what about you?
Definitely not as exciting as either. I was just going to say, one of my other hobbies is that I sew. I'm a seamstress. I've made, back in high school, I was even sewing, and I made dresses that won like Future Fashion of America awards and that. But created a number of my own dance costumes for my company and for performances. But also helped do some of our decorating around our house with different curtains and balances and things like that.
Oh, I love that. That's so
Nice.
sweet. Wonderful. Well, Tracy, can you share how everyone can find, follow, and learn more about you?
Yeah, I have a website. It's just tracyhook.com. Pretty simple. Instagram is tracyhook.coach. And I would just encourage anybody who is interested in learning more about wellness travel or coaching to just reach out. I'm available via email, hello@tracyhook.com, and I'm very accessible.
Cool. And Shelley, how can people find, follow, and learn more about you?
Well, I'm more active on Instagram and LinkedIn. So Instagram is Emptiness Reality, and my LinkedIn is just my name. I'm relaunching my website because I have like all these new ideas, and it's yourmescape.com. And then I'm not even going to go into spelling my name for my email because people are like, can I buy a vowel? No, you cannot. And so you can find it in the show notes. And that's, you can just email me and ask about like the playbook, coaching, workshops, retreats, anything.
Wonderful. And then Angela.
So I have a website. So my company is Hemisphere Dancer Wellness and Travel, but that's really long. So I abbreviated Hemisphere Dancer to just HG wellnessandtravel.com. You can also on Instagram and Facebook at Hemisphere Dancer Wellness. Also, I do private virtual sessions in Pilates or wellness coaching and travel coaching. And also I have a YouTube channel that has Pilates videos that people can access if they're interested in starting Pilates training and they don't know really what it is. There's some really great beginner kind of talking about the work and the importance of it and that online. And that's on YouTube at also Hemisphere Dancer Wellness.
Wonderful. Well, we will be sure to put everyone's links in the show notes. Angela, Shelley, and Tracy, thank you so much for being a guest on the TCN panel podcast today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This
Everyone, wonderful. Please be sure to follow us on Instagram at thetravelcoachnetwork.com as well. Come give us a hello in our TCN Global Community on Facebook. You can find the link for that and your free beginner's guide to travel coaching in the show notes, along with all of Shelley, Tracy, and Angela's links as mentioned. And if you know anyone who may be interested in travel coaching, please be sure to send them our way to our podcast. We would truly appreciate that. And until next time, my fellow wanderers, bye for now.